It all started out as a self-help mental health website for youth experiencing adversity that I was working on with a psychologist friend of mine. It eventually became a behavior model that I would teach people so they could better understand how their minds work. And it eventually grew into this really new approach to emotional wellness and even mental health that it is today. What that approach is what I'm going to cover in this episode. Welcome to Emotions Explained. I'm a software engineer by trade, and that helped me develop the foresight model, along with some neuroscience and psychology. I use that to give people an idea as to how their minds work. I'm also a project manager. I use that to develop the foresight process along with some cognitive behavior therapy influences. I use that so that people can use that knowledge and integrate it into their daily lives. Now, to give you an idea of my approach, really the best way to do that is to lead you through it. So I recorded some sessions of mine with some people so you can see what that's all about. Let me show you some of the people that I met.
Recently graduate of the graphic design degree.
I work Monday through Thursday typically. I'm a certified veterinary technician.
Yeah, okay. I own a little housekeeping business.
Okay. My sessions start with just a regular shoot and a breeze type of conversation.
I do other little things on the side, just kind of whatever comes my way. You know, a couple years ago I just decided I couldn't punch a clock for somebody else anymore and just kind of went for it. So
wanted to go into a field with animals.
Yeah.
Ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
I went on a cross-country trip last month, and then I was like feeling spots out. It was either between here and Santa Cruz.
However, I am always looking for something that I call markers.
And otherwise, I just wait. It sounds awful, but I just wait till I can get to a place where I can be by myself and just like ride the roller coaster and let it out.
Okay,
it's unity, honestly. It's a unity through people who are outcasts.
Right. Yeah, I just figured I'd go do something I know I love to do, and hopefully, I've never been one to like have a real structured plan and goals. I just kind of, you know.
Yeah. Markers are potential signs that dovetail with the behavior model. So let me get into that now. Foresight says that we have 4 key emotions: guilt, shame, fear, and worry. They make sure that we do the right thing and also that we don't do the wrong thing. They naturally enforce good behavior. The problem is that because of issues during development, we may under or over experience these emotions as an adult. We may experience them when we shouldn't, and we may not experience them when we should. As a result, conflict is going to occur. Let's get back to the conversations so I can show you how that happens.
So did you feel like an outcast when you were growing up?
Yeah. Like, my school was like just like sports people, honestly. Like,
right.
I'd say that because it's like people who play sports and like talk about sports and watch sports, and it's.
I mean, so this is all because really interesting stuff. Yeah. So you said a really interesting word though. So outcast, you know.
Outcast.
Now, so my next question is that something that you assigned to yourself, or was things done to you to make you feel that you were an outcast? Is that a self-perception or an external perception?
Definitely internal. I felt like an outcast. I honestly wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, I was friends with, like I said, I was friends with everyone.
But you felt that you were different, and it was, you know,
it's the music,
an issue for you.
Yeah, the music, like going to shows and trying to tell people about it.
Let's revisit those 4 key emotions again and give them some more context. Foresight says that there are 2 consciousness processes: self-esteem, which is how we look at the past. That includes the guilt and shame. And the self-confidence, which is how we plan the future. And that includes fear and worry. And each of them has a question that people can ask themselves to understand when they may be under or over experiencing that emotion. Now back to our conversation.
I defined the 2 processes. Do I have discretion? Do I have discretion and will I persevere? Is self-confidence, how we look at the future. How we look at the past is self-esteem. So to me, it's made up of am I good and do I have value? And you know, you're questioning the do I have value at times.
And that's how it all ties together. He's having issues with the do I have value question. As a result, he's experiencing shame when he shouldn't, and that's causing conflict in his life. Let's go back to one of the other sessions where a person is having an issue in another area.
Right. So just, curious off the top of your head. So, am I good means like self-love. Mm-hmm. Do I have value is self-affirmation. do I have discretion is self-control, and do I have, will I persevere is self-soothing, right? Do any of those jump out at you as that, yeah, maybe I kind of, I'm more challenged in that area?
Or I am
Definitely
challenged.
the discrimination.
Okay, the discretion.
Discretion,
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
Right, okay.
And it kind of makes sense, obviously you said you have a colorful background, we'll say, right?
Right.
And you had, so like you said you were married twice. Was it impulsive? Like I guess one time you were pregnant, right? Maybe? Or?
No, actually.
Right.
No. Both of them were pretty impulsive, yeah.
Right. And that's the uncanny thing. All behavior that causes problems is driven by our under or over experiencing one of these 4 emotions. Let me show you a chart. This table gives you an idea of the key patterns that I look for so I can determine when a person is struggling with a particular emotion. In all cases, I should note that this is all when they over experience it. There are also patterns for people who under experience emotions, however, they tend not to seek help. The reason being is that this behavior causes problems for others and not necessarily them. Where people who over-experience an emotion, they tend to experience the conflict. Let's return to the Do I Have Value session so we can see how his over-experiencing shame is causing him conflict.
I just like past relationships, how I dealt with people, or how they affected me, and overthinking what I could have done, should have done. Lying in the bed some mornings, and that was my problem when I was in Colombia. That's when it got to the point I was I could stay here and be miserable, or I could spend all my money going somewhere else.
Right.
And that's what I did. Right. It got to the point where I would lay in bed early in the morning and just look at my ceiling and ruminate everything. Everything I could think about. Job, relationship, money.
For example, when I was growing up, I was different and I knew it, but I had no problems with it. I was really comfortable with it. So, I could have looked at myself as an outcast, but I didn't, right? So that's something that you're kind of applying to yourself for some reason.
Yeah.
And when you're talking, and this kind of echoes in other things, when you're talking about relationships and stuff like that, we should all do an inventory when a relationship ends, right? And that's cool. What did I do wrong? What can I do better?
Yeah.
And that's how we learn and grow, and that's great.
Yeah.
But what we don't want to do is, kind of brood over it. Mm-hmm. Get it to the point where we keep thinking about it and cycling on it and questioning our own value.
Yeah.
Right? So, that would be, kind of one thought that maybe you probably spend more time on that question than is fair to yourself.
Yeah.
That gives you some idea as to how the analysis part of the session goes, the foresight model. It's also a foresight process so that people can use that information that they gain and affect change in their lives. The foresight process is represented by the CORE acronym, which stands for Commit, Observe, Reflect, and Edit. And it's a step-by-step plan that you can follow to integrate the information that you gain from a foresight model analysis. Every session has a foresight analysis component, and I give people tips so they can integrate that knowledge into their daily lives to reduce conflict. Earlier on in the process, though, there are some key skills that we need in order to affect behavioral change. Emotional regulation is one of them. Let's look at one of the sessions where I speak more about that.
There's a difference between, experiencing one of these negative emotions and then doing something to kind of distract yourself versus actually questioning the emotion.
Yeah.
So do you actually ever do that? Do you ever I am seeing a pattern from the past.
Yes.
And challenging the emotion that it's misleading you.
No, I don't. I think I let the fear kind of take over.
Okay.
At least that's what I'm experiencing now. For example, I went to the grocery store and they rearranged the whole store. They remodeled the whole store. And I was crying, having a panic attack, meltdown in the middle of the grocery store because I couldn't find.
Okay, so here that's an awesome example. Here's
and that's not real. You don't need to have a mental breakdown in the grocery store because you can't find the chip aisle.
Okay, yeah, but here so let me tell you a really subtle difference between us, which will hopefully help you. I am the rock in everything, right? I am solid for everybody. Mm-hmm. I always have been, always will be. Mm-hmm. I'm probably one of the most emotionally stable people that you would ever do, right? However, when Fred Meyer, so the one over here, when they moved all the stuff around, I was so annoyed, and I was pissed. But here's the subtle difference, right? Okay, Not that you broke down and I didn't. That has nothing to do with it, right? It's just that it's the feeling and the behavior.
Yeah.
I'm disconnecting the two of them. Whatever the behavior is fine, but but realizing that the feeling is okay.
Okay.
It makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
It's a first world problem.
Right.
Here we are. We're upset because our grocery stores are moving the stuff around.
I know.
Right?
I know.
But here's the difference. I don't experience any shame as a result of that feeling. You do.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. So now, do you think my brain lies to me during the day?
I think everybody's does just a little
Exactly.
bit. Yeah.
That's the point. Everybody's brain does, right? You it's unavoidable, right? Because what happens is that, again, emotions are echoes, more or less echoes from the past.
Yeah.
Right? And we were all at a less mature state than we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And we experienced a situation, and as a result, we felt threatened.
Right.
Physically threatened.
Right.
Right? And it made sense. As a 3-year-old, 6-year-old, 9-year-old, we were physically threatened then.
Right.
Right? However, that's no longer the case.
Right.
Regardless, our body still makes us feel like we're physically threatened.
Yes.
But they're not physical threats.
Right.
They're emotional threats now.
Right.
Right? So as a result, we get kind of launched back into that time period.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're being physically threatened.
Yeah.
So what we have to realize is that, we feel physically threatened, but our brain is lying to us.
Right.
So then it now becomes reframing. And the difference between, kind of things that you were mentioning, I'm going to go for a walk, right?
Yeah.
The difference that I want you to do is to say, okay, I'm not being fair to myself. I am experiencing a physical threat based upon something that isn't here now.
Right.
And it's challenging the emotion.
Okay.
But being okay with it, right? Hey, my brain is lying to me, and that's okay. But I know that my brain is lying to me. And the difference potentially will be is that you'll experience that feeling in the supermarket, but instead of breaking down, you'll now get into this logical, kind of higher level reasoning thing, which is saying, okay, I'm experiencing an echo from the past.
Right.
Right? It's not that I can't handle the moment right now. It's my brain is reminding me of when I was 5 or 6.
Right.
Right? And to me, that's going to be a really important thing. It's questioning your feelings and starting to reframe them.
Okay.
This interaction is a really good example of what I do with people. When we're growing up, we're not given this reference manual that says, this is what emotions are, and when you're having problems with them, this is what you should do. As a result, we're all left to fend for ourselves. And we all come up with really different, ways of handling this stuff. And that results in a lot of conflict. What I do is I kind of, define things for people and give them a standard. I say, this is the emotions encyclopedia, and this is what you can do to improve your quality of life.
What will happen lots of times is that people will experience shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And, they have to realize that sometimes they're shaming themselves when they shouldn't. And that's a really important, kind of like recurring theme, is to put yourself down. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, being in a traumatic situation, knowing you and just kind of hearing your background, it makes sense that you have this, you're kind of overwhelmed with emotion.
Yes.
Right? So it's going to come out, right? So be okay with the fact that it's going to come out, and don't assign something negative to it.
Okay.
That's the end of part 1. In part 2, we're going to have some follow-up interviews with these people so we can see how they're doing with this new knowledge. More importantly, we're going to see if there's any adjustments that have to be made so they can better integrate this information. And that's really the key. Emotions, after all, is all about adapting, getting new information, seeing what we can do to change, and doing what we can to improve our quality of life.